All right, strength and conditioning. I'm a little different than anyone that's presented so far. We got some more strength and conditioning coming up after this. But we have a unique caption of what the ice hockey team goes through. Because we're kind of that outside, we get to watch the whole thing, right? And it doesn't matter if it's ice hockey or soccer or basketball or football. Building the player without losing your direction. The first thing I want to do is I want to thank the German Ice Hockey Federation for having me here, and also the IIHF for having me here. It's the first time I've been to Germany. The beer's excellent, and the people are very friendly so far, so I've had a good time. And the other reason I'm here is Marco Sturm. Right there, your national team coach. He's a great person. He's a great leader. He shows up, and he's always kind to people. And you can see what I said when I described Marco. I didn't say he was a great hockey player. I didn't say he was a rich man. I didn't say anything about that. I said what type of person he was. And it makes the most difference right there. What kind of person do you come out of from this game? And what are you trying to get out of this game with what you're doing? Now, if you look in that bottom right-hand corner, that's Marco right there. That is the biggest goal in the last 20 years of Boston Bruins history before they win the Stanley Cup. That's the Winter Classic, Fenway Park. Marco scores in overtime to give them the victory, 3-2. He gave the Boston Bruins hope that the future was bright. And he was part of that developing. And I'm going to talk about kind of that team and the development that he did. But I'll tell you right now, if you want people to come talk about being a good coach, you guys should probably look right inside your country and get Marco's coaches up here. Because Marco's done it right. Because every place he goes, he leaves an impression. So he's the right guy running your team here. Wins and losses and whatever people count as the big equalizer, isn't it what impression you're leaving on those people that he's coaching? I don't care whether it's the youngest kid on that team, Germany, or it's Dennis Seidenberg, who I also had. Marco's going to leave a positive impression. And that leads right into coaches should use hockey to teach life skills. I don't care if I say ice hockey coaches, soccer coaches, basketball coaches. Coaches should. Life skills, goal setting, social skills, overcoming adversity, leadership, establishing a healthy lifestyle, which I'm keen on, building character, not finding and making the next NHL player. What are you in it for? Because I've been a strength and conditioning coach for over 20 years of my life. I spent 5 years at Boston College, and then I spent 15 years with the Boston Bruins as a strength and conditioning coach. In these things, even with the players, it's not who can make the most amount of money as fast as they can. Because I'll tell you right now, if you guys know any millionaires, you've been around any millionaires, if they're a jerk, you don't want to be around them. So what have you gotten? What have you accomplished? So building character to become a successful and productive adult. That's really what everybody in this room is trying to do. Empower the kids that they work with. Boys, girls, teens, whoever it is. You're trying to empower them to become better people. Not to win hockey games. It's a byproduct of it. You know, everyone's so focused on wins and losses, but what you should really be focused on is what you're trying to do and where you're trying to go. I created a new program called Be Fit. All right, that's the Boston Bruins logo. I was a strength coach for 15 years. After I got back from Team North America, I had already developed this program and switched to that. I am now working for the Boston Bruins Foundation. If I was working directly for the team, I would not be able to come and talk to a great group like this because it would be too close to what we're doing back home. So I created this thing called Be Fit. And what is being fit? Being fit is being ready to overtake obstacles in your path. I don't care if it's mental fitness or physical fitness. You know, everybody's worried about physical fitness and having the edge. But aren't we trying to be prepared to overcome obstacles? Our mission, to encourage movement and promote healthier living. Just moving. Just get moving. right? Just live a little bit better. Those are the things that are important. I don't care if you're dealing with an NHL player. The ones that are fat or the ones that are out of shape, you just want to get them moving a little bit more. Make them live a little bit better, right? Maybe not drinking so many beers. So this gives us a whole different, I'm using hockey in a whole different fashion than I was before. I'm using the hockey platform to help educate other people. And I saw this, and I got kind of turned off, and I was talking to Stefan at the World Cup. I got kind of turned off to strength and conditioning and what everybody's trying to sell, and everyone's trying to sell the next big thing and trying to use it as a marketing of themselves. I saw hockey as a great way to teach children, whether they liked hockey or didn't like hockey, about moving, about getting up, moving, about eating a little bit better, and having a little bit of understanding. Everybody recognizes the logo, so I go into a school. They know that I'm there with a pro sport. But if I start talking about hockey, I lose everybody in the room that's not a hockey player or doesn't have any aptitude for it or doesn't care about it or doesn't have the resources to play it. But everybody needs to know about being healthy. So that's why I started that. This drives me nuts. All these trends, all these fads. And this is actually true. This is a true picture. You imagine doing that to stay healthy? What if that snaps or your leg slips out of it and you land on your head? It's not going to make you very healthy when you have a broken neck. I talk to everyday people. It's not about what you do. It's about that you do. I don't care if you're a runner, you're a swimmer, you're a bicyclist. It just matters that you're doing something. You're doing something to move yourself around. Just get moving and eat healthier. That's what I'm selling now all the time. Empowering people that they have the answers with inside them. The teams I've worked with, Boston College, which is a big university over in the United States where I'm from, spent 5 years with them, spent 15 years as the strength coach for the Boston Bruins, and I worked with Team North America at the World Cup last year and spent a month with those guys. And I learned something from each and one of those teams, specifically. Championship winning teams and how you build them. It's the core group's experience, what the center of that team is. And that core group might not be the same guys that started that mission. All right? You might have lost some guys along the way. It's like Marco Sturm's a perfect example. It's easy for me to come over here and give this presentation because he was part of that core group in Boston that won the Stanley Cup. But he was traded on the same year that we won it and didn't get to raise it. Now, he had as much influence on winning the Stanley Cup as Patrice Bergeron did because he laid the forefront on what was to come. Leadership, culture, chemistry, common expectations, commitment, embracing their roles, belief that anyone on the ice can be the hero because you never know who the hero is going to be. Could be a fourth liner, it could be a first liner, it could be the seventh defenseman. You never know who it's going to be, and having a structured plan. Now, every team that I've seen win, and I've been lucky enough to be involved with those two very strong programs in very bad times. So I was able to really learn something about what it took to win. More grit, all right? It's a big word over in the United States now, even with children. Grit, passion and perseverance, long-term goals. Getting kids to work harder, getting hockey players to work harder, doing something extra. I mean, it's just common sense things, but these are what make these teams win. It really is. See Michael Ryder, he was a third-line player, jumping in front of the puck, Game 7, Montreal Canadiens, the year we win the Stanley Cup. That's overtime. That's all over. They score, it's all over. Tim Thomas is over there playing defense, and Mike jumps in, right? So it's doing something extra. It's going above and beyond. Someone that's willing to see the team goal and keep doing whatever they can to get success out of it. Now in 2001, Boston College won the national championship. 52 years passed by. before they won it again from when I had started. They hadn't won in 52 years. What made that group different? Because there are a lot of good hockey players that came through there in that time frame. So what made that group different? Right here, that core group, they lost a national championship game as freshmen. Freshmen, it took them 4 more years to win it. So they took that experience of losing along the way, how hard they had to work, getting everybody on the same page to get to the point where they won. The Bruins, 2011, 39 years went by before they won in 2011. That's a lot of losing. All right, that's a lot of down years. 2008, Game 7. 2009, Game 7. 2010, Game 7. A lot of adversity there, right? A lot of life lessons. It's funny, it's easy to bring this back to Marco, but right here, 2008, Game 6, he scores with 3 minutes left in the game in Montreal to send this to a Game 7. And that's when people really started to believe that hockey's back. It was funny, when I sat down, Paul was talking about what you can learn on the internet. I started looking, I said, you know what, how can I tie this into Marco? It makes it a little bit more interesting if you got some skin in the game, that people here know him, that people here count on him. I looked back, and I forgot all about that. But it said, the Hockey Writers of Boston said, hockey's back in Boston in 2008. And it took till 2011 to win. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into a winning program, and it takes over a long period of time. But you got to get everybody on board. Now, when we're talking about that, we got to break it down to the player level. We use this term all the time when I was dealing with the players. Are you a prospect or are you a suspect? Because it doesn't take long to go from being a prospect to then being a suspect, right? Oh, this kid's great. This kid's going to be terrific. And then all of a sudden the kid doesn't do anything, right? Or they can't get it done, or something's going wrong. Control what you can, I always tell them. And your levels that you're coaching, it's an important thing to do. Control what you can. Can you be in better shape? Absolutely. Can you fight the politics within the hockey program? Probably not. So you try to take that out of it. You control what you can. And it's never too late to reinvent yourself. I don't care. It's never too late to reinvent yourself as a coach, as a person, as a player. Number one thing, attitude and lifestyle. Number one, when I dealt with the kids coming into development camps in the NHL, attitude and lifestyle is what I found held the guys back more than hockey and breakouts and dump-ins and all that stuff. I was talking to Steph, and I said, what do you want me to speak about? He said, talk about the car. Talk about the car and how strength and conditioning is one wheel on that car. So I said, you know what? I know strength and conditioning is a wheel on the car. I know on ice is a wheel on that car. And to me, my car would also have attitude and lifestyle as the other two wheels. Attitude and lifestyle, you don't have those, the car can't move. You can probably move with 3 wheels, but it's really hard to move with only 2 wheels. So you look at that factor, and just because my life experience and what I've had in all the speakers here, these are our life's experiences. You might not agree with everything we say, and that's all right. But this is what shaped us into how we view things. You might say, oh, there's no way that attitude, they should be together. Attitude. You're arguing over the wrong points. Aku and I could do the same job for 15 years, and he'd come out of it with a whole different viewpoint than I did. So it's all life experience. There he is, David Pastrnak. Big day, you get drafted. Here it is. Going up there, hugging your parents. Everyone's clapping for you. You've reached your dream. Right there, played in the NHL, scores his first goal. But for every one of those guys that are first-round picks in the NHL, 40% of those guys do not have an NHL career. 40% of the top, the best of the best, the best of the world, 40% of them don't go on to have an NHL career. So then it's like, well, what are we doing with them? So we got them there. We got them to this level. Say David doesn't make it. which he does, and he did. But what if he doesn't? What influence have you made along the way? Is he a good person? Does he say please and thank you? Is he respectful of others? Is he a decent human being? Because those things really make the biggest difference. Now, set expectations for your players. I don't care if it's at the NHL level, minor hockey, soccer, baseball. Be open to learning life lessons from hockey. You know, stretching, what to do working out, what not to eat, stay away from fried foods. Whatever the life lessons are, be nice to your teammates, be nice to your friends, listen to your coach, listen to the whistle, right? I blow the whistle, everybody listen. They're like, whoa, you guys have learned life lessons, right? I'm not from Germany, but this is a universal life lesson. You go in, you hear the whistle, you quiet. Improvement. The biggest thing people don't want to see is people not improving in business, on the ice, whatever it might be. Working hard on and off the ice. Great conditioning. It's something you can control. Lean, athletic body. As a strength and conditioning coach, this is important for me. Hockey players, you want them to be strong, but you don't want them to be bodybuilders. If you want them to be bodybuilders, have them go into something else. Discipline, sacrifice, good choices. Establish a culture with your group. I don't care if it's a Pee Wee group, an NHL group, a college group. You want a culture. You want an identity. You know, one of those things is, I think everything's based on working hard, right? We used to say this all the time. You have to work harder than the guy that has the job you want. And is that hockey statement or is that a real life statement? Because you have to outwork the person ahead of you. And that's a good lesson for kids. The harder you work gets you to where you want to go. Greg Campbell gets hit by a shot, stays on the ice and finishes the penalty kill, even though he broke his leg. Right? That's a different level. He's out there. He's staying out there because he knows those guys depended on him. So somewhere along the way, before he came to the Boston Bruins, he was ingrained with the fact that you can't let your teammates down. And I don't care if that's in business. I don't care if that's in your family. Those things carry through your whole life. There's your car with 4 wheels, right? Strength and conditioning. There's one of them. Let's talk about it. What's the best strength program? That's the best strength program. The one the athletes do and continue to do that makes them better on the ice. Really is. Everybody wants to sell you on what's the best program. And I could sit up here and draw a workout program and be like, this is the best. I've worked with professional athletes. I'd be lying to you. It's not the best. I used to beg, borrow, and steal from all of our athletes when they go out around the world and work with other trainers. I'd say, what did you do? They'd come back and they'd tell me, I'd say, what'd you do? What'd you like to do? What'd you like about his program? What didn't you like about her program? Because some of our guys worked out with women. I mean, it's impressive what these guys do. So I'd beg, borrow, and steal stuff from them when they'd come back and get ideas. There's not one person that has all the answers. I don't care who they are and what they tell you. There's not one person. Who's the best trainer? The one that holds the athletes accountable. Relates well with them and keeps them improving. That's the same as coaches. That's the same thing. So you could take the top person. I don't care. You come up with whoever's name it is. Take them, put them in Germany, put them in a program, and they're going to make your team better, even though they might not know the culture. They might not know the constraints those players have gone through. They might not have the background. Then you take a guy from Germany and put him in that situation that has all those things. He's probably going to relate better right off the hop, right? And he's probably going to have a better rapport. Can't say it's not learned, but I'm talking about the best guy. So who is the best guy? The best guy could be sitting right here for this group. You never know who that person is. The strength world. It's a crazy world we live in, right? How do we get here? All the dollars, right? See all the money. That's how we got here. Because they sell it on TV. They're selling it all the time. Because everybody wants to be fitter, leaner, whatever it might be. And that has a trickle-down effect to athletes, right? Ends up in the athletic world very quickly. Mid-90s, everybody must ride. Everybody. Doesn't matter what you do, when you played, how many minutes you played. Everyone's going to ride after the game. Every single player. It was the basis of the program. Late 90s, early 2000s, physio balls, they're going to save the world, right? They're going to save everything in the NHL. We're going to stand on them. We're going to squat on them. We're going to bench on them. The whole program is going to be based around physio ball training. That's kind of gone by too, right? There's bikes still. There's physio balls still, but they're not the core basis of a program. Mid-2000s, TRX, Bosu ball, we're going to jump around. We're going to be completely functional, right? There's stuff still there, but they're not the core basis of the program, right? You know, these things all have spots and all have places, and they're very important tools, but they're not the whole program. They're not basing the whole program around that. This thing, in 2010, now everyone's shocking themselves, right? We're providing electrical stimulus, make the muscles fire. That's the base of the program. This is all I do. I hook myself up to this, do my activities with this on, and nothing else outside of that. Can I say that doesn't help? No. That helps for sure. Anything helps. But nothing takes over the whole basis of the program, where it's the most important thing. Now the extreme phase we're in right now. We see it on TV all the time. They're trying to jam it down our throats. You got to go as fast and as hard as you can for 60 minutes. And they call it things like insanity and all this stuff and fire everybody up, right? Let's all go for that. So I talk to people at home and, you know, one of my wife's friends will be like, well, yeah, I'm doing this thing and this and that. And I'm like, for what? Like, well, what's your goal? Do you have a goal? Like what you're trying to do, you're going to try to take the baby and put it on the table as fast as you can? Like, what's your goal? Like, what are we trying to do here? You know, it's unbelievable. You know, there's no thought behind it all. And that doesn't mean that there's not great parts of those things, but they're not the whole part. The next big thing. You want to know? Want me to tell you? I can't tell you. But I hear this all the time. I used to hear this all the time when I was working the NHL. Did you hear what put the name in does? I don't care who it is. Soccer player, baseball player, football player. I don't care. J.J. Watt, did you hear he's jumping 42 inches on the plyo boxes? I'm like, yeah, I've heard that like 15 times. Is that a great idea? I'm not sure I'd do that with my $10 million football player. But so what? He's doing it. LeBron James in the NBA, top guy, right? Did you hear what he's doing? He's flipping tires. He's balancing on rollers with his elbows and this and that. I'm like, all right, that's interesting to hear. Oh, Crosby and McDavid, they're the best players, right? They're the top players. They're balancing on this and stick handling and that. What drives the craze, right? What's driving all this? The companies, marketing their products. And if you want to jump right down to this, because you see Crosby and McDavid and all those guys, the top athletes already had that X factor that made them elite. I don't care if you have Crosby and McDavid and those kids, they're extremes as it is. They're already better than everybody. It's this that set them apart, that made them the best. They already had something. So it's not like you can take your kid and say, okay, I'm going to do balance on this board with a hockey stick or flip tires or this, and I'm going to have Crosby and McDavid. They're going to be my kids now. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to create my kids because I saw them do it. But as crazy as that might sound, that's what really happens. People really believe that. The trainers that train elite athletes, they must be better, right? Are they? You have to ask yourself that question. I've been around a lot of people that have trained a lot of great players. And I've been around a lot of people that have trained what you would consider not the top players. And some of the ones that are down on the lower levels are even better, right? They're even better. They think about it more. They're involved more. They're motivating that group more. They got something extra too. This thing drives me nuts. And this is kind of why I came up with this whole BFIT idea. Right there. Has to seem like trading's a moving target, right? Oh, geez, what do you do? Everyone's so confused. I don't know what to do. These guys are doing this guy's doing that. but it has to be a moving target because they got to sell something, right? If I got up here and I sold you on, you got to work hard, you got to be accountable, you got to have dedication. All right, what are you selling me? Oh, yeah, okay, let me give you a controversy. I don't like when people bench press. Take bench press right out. We're throwing it out. We're doing the physio ball, bench press, alternate arm with dumbbells. That's what you got to do. That's how your guy's going to play in the NHL. I'll sell you that. And I got a workout video back here too. Right? It's the hard work. It's the stuff underlying the program that really is the most important stuff. And it doesn't mean those other things aren't important, but it's not like the structure itself. Fads capitalize on this. Fads are unbelievable, and you're going to deal with them the whole time you coach. The athletes are always looking for an edge. And it might be training. It might be steroids. You're going to be faced with that when you're going along here, of having a group of individuals that want to succeed, or coaches or whoever. In the fear of falling behind, because everybody tries to make everybody feel like they're falling behind. Dennis Seidenberg, I used to have this question with him all the time. So Dennis, German, you guys can relate to him, you know him. He'd be in there, he's like, oh, I'm doing this and this and this. He's telling me all these different things. I said, Dennis, you're a really good hockey player. Don't lose sight of the fact. He was like, yeah, but these guys are doing this because he always wanted to be better. But guess what? He was ahead of it. He was staying with it. But they want to make everybody scared that you're falling behind. For us, common people, people that aren't pay sports, the quest for the fast solution. You do this for 90 days, you're going to look like this guy with abs or this woman with buns of steel, right? As quickly as possible, because people don't want to work at something over time. They don't want something that's sustainable. They don't want to hear that, yeah, you commit 90 days, you work as hard as you can, you get better, but guess what? When that 90 days is up, you're going to do it again. You're going to do it again. You're going to do it again for the rest of your life if you want to stay looking like that. That sustainability and that long term. And these things that I'm telling you in that about kids is you have the influence to guide the kids in these things. Guide the kids in the areas when they're looking at some of these things, some of these crazy fads, some of these things that they think are going to be the next big thing. That's hockey right there, right? Coaches, follow your own advice. What do you tell little kids? Don't follow the puck. Don't everybody swarm to the puck and then follow it around the ice. That's what you tell little kids all the time. I'm not a hockey coach. I don't pretend to coach hockey. I don't want to coach hockey unless it's at a young level, because I'm no expert. But I'll tell you right now, any coach I've heard, they say don't chase the puck. And so strength and conditioning in this fitness world that we live in, that's what everybody does, right? They're constantly chasing this puck of this dream or this thing or this image or whatever it might be. But it's really not there. They're just following it around. There's no substitute for working hard. And we talk about at the beginning, what you're trying to instill in your players, hard work. Does hard work help you in your marriage? Does it help you at your job? Is it real life? Darn right it's real life. It's what separates people. The ones that want to outwork or work harder than the other one. That is the difference. You want to talk about strength and conditioning? Have a plan with structure. A structured plan on what you want to accomplish with it. Where you want to go. The number one goal of a strength and conditioning program is athletic performance. Do you believe that? It's not. It's right there. Number one goal is injury prevention. Everybody sells everything to make the players better, perform better, right? But the number one goal of a good strength program should be injury prevention. Because if you're hurt and you're in the training room, you're not helping yourself or the team. So a really good thought-out program should really focus on injury prevention, things that are going to hold you back. Does anybody know the number one injury prevention thing that you can do? One hand. Go ahead. There you go. That's Tom. Tom was at our, he's from the United States. He was at one of our things, and I'm selling this. He was at one of our coaching things for Team USA, for the USA programs, for the kids programs, kind of like what these guys from Hockey Canada do, but in the United States. I said the biggest injury prevention tool is flexibility. So I have one of these young kids coaches raise his hand. He says, and I said, you know what? You got to work on it with kids. He said, I've never had a kid pull a muscle. How's your back feel right now when you wake up in the morning? How many of you people stretch right now every day? Isn't that the goal, though? To work on stuff with your kids that then they take away from the sport? Use the sport as a catalyst, as a tool to teach them stuff that they're going to use later on? So why aren't you stretching with the kids? You should be, because it's the number one biggest injury preventer. Not all this quick I see people doing quick foot ladders and parking lots and everything else with the kids. Stretching with them? You know, it's the basis. The importance of off-ice training in the NHL to lower the injury rate, to keep the injuries down. Stronger player, compete against age levels. You know, you see all these different brackets, and they're up here talking about all these different things. You know, the 17 and 18-year-old kids play together, and these other groups play together. It's important. And you get into the NHL, it's a whole different ballgame. You got a 19-year-old kid like Pasternak competing against Zdeno Chara. Not only is that extremes in heights, but also in age, right? Extend your career. Control what you can. Someone wants your job. Remember before, it was like you want to work harder than the guy that has the job you want. But guess what? There's someone behind you that might want your job. But that's important to teach kids these things. It's important to teach kids extending your career either as a hockey player or whatever else it's going to be. You know, working on flexibility, working on low back strength. You know, it's going to help you become a golfer, a tennis player, whatever it might be. But these are things as hockey coaches you can influence the kids with. Parts of a great strength program. I don't care if it's the best one in the world. I don't care who wrote it. None of that. I don't care. But these are the parts right here. This is it right here of a great strength program. And that's in order of importance. The number one most important part of a great strength program is dedication. What you put into it's what you get out of it. It's just like hockey. It's just like your job. It's just like your marriage. It's just like anything. Without dedication, you might as well not even get started. So the number one thing is dedication. Number two thing, healthy diet. And the reason why two is not one is because you need really good dedication to eat well. But I'll tell you right now, it is absolutely impossible to offset a bad diet. You know, you go in, you're pounding ice cream, you're eating all this junk food, you're eating fast food, you're eating fried food, but then you get on the bike for 2 hours or 45 minutes or whatever it might be, and you're going to work it off. Doesn't work, right? So the second thing is eating well. The third is enough sleep and recovery. Without proper rest, you won't improve. And that's important to tell kids, right? If you're up and you're playing Xbox all night, or my kids are up reading books or whatever it might be, even though reading books is great, my wife and I have this conversation. She's like, well, they're going to be smart. I'm like, oh, they're going to be exhausted. And they're not going to learn. They're not going to grow. They're not going to get to their potential because they're not sleeping enough. It affects your brain and how you do stuff. But now you're building a framework for your program. And I don't care, all those things will end up affecting what happens on the ice, if that's the big delivery factor. But I'm not that concerned about that. I'm more concerned about all those things going together to make a really healthy adult or a really healthy child. There it is, flexibility, biggest injury preventer. Before all the strength and conditioning stuff, that's a priority. If you're not stretching with the kids, start stretching with the kids. Teach them these things. Take the time to teach the kids about things that you know can help them, not just their wrist shot. I mean, when you're 65, 70 years old, you're going to be doing a wrist shot? No, but you're probably going to want to play with your grandchildren. You'll want to move around the house. So if you factor in these things and work on these things, it's going to help you. Your prehab exercises, stuff that you do before you get hurt. We stay ahead of the stuff. And then your weightlifting and your conditioning program. So all that other stuff can be established now. I don't care if you're working with 7-year-olds, talking to them about eating healthy. The biggest thing I see in our grades is, what they're consuming, what they're drinking. Lots of pop, lots of this, like water, milk, healthy things. You're laying the foundation. You're laying the groundwork for the rest of their lives. You want to create the next Marco Sturm, the person, not Marco Sturm, the NHL hockey player, because he's going to be Marco Sturm, the person, a lot longer than he was Marco Sturm, the hockey player. But you have the ability with what you're doing to influence kids at the lowest levels. And wow, what a responsibility that is. I've got 7-year-old twins. And I look at the coaches and the teachers, and I'm like, geez, these are the people that are influencing my children's lives. It's a big responsibility. But if you use it the right way, with the right goals, with what you're trying to accomplish, boy, it's powerful, right? It's empowering. It can be one of the most rewarding things you can do. Testing. Why do we do it? Identify and see where people are weak, right? Track their improvement. And is the program working or is it not? Goals. Nobody to get hurt. Every year in the NHL, that was my biggest goal. I don't want, if I have this great testing thing and I got guys standing on their heads and doing this and whatever they might be doing, and Zdeno pulls his hamstring, guess what? I'm looking for a new job, right? So it goes back to that injury prevention piece and the strength and conditioning. No one get hurt. You take your mind and use it common sense-wise. And when you have kids, you look at that. Kids out there doing the ladder I talked about. I see it all the time in parking lots. And it's like laid out in the parking lot and they're running over a bunch of sand and gravel with a chance to slip and really hurt themselves. Look at those things. Tests that make you a better hockey player. That's the big thing, is what's going to make you a better hockey player? And what is the purpose to doing it? And I used to always say to our guys, I would say, stop me at any point you want. When I'm working you out, when we're testing, and tell me or ask me how that's going to make you a better hockey player. And I had to have the answer, right? You have to have the answer in the common sense approach to what you're doing. Without having that structured plan or not having that roadmap before you leave the house to know where you're going to drive around to, why start driving? Why start going? This is always the thing, and I used to always get people, and they'd be like, why do we do these tests? Why do we do these certain tests? And I was always like, you know what? It's to trick you to train the way I want you to train. Because I know before you're coming to camp, all you got to do is those tests. So we'd have the 300-yard shuttle. Guys would be stopping and starting, going back and forth. We'd be at the development training center. We'd be out there, and I remember Claude Julien coming out, who coaches for the Canadians now. He was like, these guys are running every day. These guys are doing this. I go, yeah, they're hockey players. That's what they do. If they know something that they've got to do, they're going to do it over and over and over and over again. I go, but let me tell you something, Coach. We're tricking them to do it you want them to do to be better out there. They're just getting better shape every day because they're practicing these tests all the time. I see people get on different things and they'll go for 65 minutes on a treadmill or on a bike or whatever it might be. I've never seen a player play 65 minutes before. Zdeno Chara plays a lot of time. Ray Bourque probably played the most time. He'd probably be on the ice 35, 40 minutes, but never 65. So what you do with your athletes, whatever level it is, make it make sense, right? Make it make sense. What tests will you use to track your players during the season? So if you're coaching at a bit of an elite level, how are you going to track them? Because I'll tell you right now, I don't care what program you're running, where you are, and how it's going. You're not going to be able to roll out metabolic carts and all these things at different times during the season. You'll probably lose most of your athletes. They'll probably be like, oh, this is a nightmare. Here we go again. We're in the middle of a losing streak, and we're doing all these tests again. So figure out what tests you're going to use to monitor your players if you're doing it at an elite level, just to know where they are. What do you think the number one easiest thing to do to know where your athletes are? A test. Anybody? Your weight. Right? What you weigh. Simple as a scale, getting on a scale. But then all of a sudden you're tracking that. They're tracking that themselves. What are they cognizant of? They're cognizant they're gaining too much weight, which is going to slow them down. They're not eating well. They're crushing too many beers at night. They step on that scale, it's going to tell them that. So it's such a simple test, right? Such a simple test. So it's one of those things that you can stay with and you can track through the season without poking and prodding and turning these kids into lab rats, right? Something as simple as weighing in. And it's funny, we get kids at the NHL level, and I'm teaching them, weigh yourself in to know where you are if you've gained too much weight. But I'm also concerned if you've lost a lot of weight, right? Because it's equally as much of a deterrent, rehydration, and what you might be missing. But these are things at your levels you can educate. Everybody can get a scale, Don't make it a big part of a thing, but more of a way for performance-based. Not like, oh, you're going to be punished, but educate them. You have to have a plan. Don't test just to test. Right back to where we started at the beginning, building the player without losing your direction. Right there. Remember the odds. Drafted players in the NHL. Drafted. First-round players, 60% of them are going to have an NHL career. 60% out of the tops all around the world. Second round, 25%. 25%. That's staggering. And someone might raise their hand, I read it was 30%. Whatever it is, it's a lot less, right? It's a lot less. We can argue about percentages and ratios, but it drops, and I've seen it drop. Third round and beyond, 12% of those guys that are so selected that get to the NHL, that get drafted. High school senior being drafted by an NHL team. This is a high school senior in the United States, 0.4%. Playing in college and getting a scholarship, 12%. College, that are pretty elite kids, right? To the draft, 4% of them. It's extremely tough to make the NHL. So where does that lead us? Right back to where we started, right? Right back to what is your goal and what are you trying to do? You're trying to make these kids better people. People you'd want as neighbors, people you'd want as brothers and sisters, people that you can count on. That's what you're trying to do. And you're just using the sport of hockey to control that. But it's pretty powerful. Thank you very much.